Hello and welcome back, survivors. This is Darius Torana, and we are back on the Beating the Arc Challenge. So, today is going to be a slightly different format, just like Wednesday was. Unlike Wednesday, however, we are going to be having a script today, and I will not be recording my audio during the gameplay. I would like to know which you guys prefer. Now, I was going to talk about my time at Walmart today. However, I did get some advice from Ruby that it may be more fun to talk a little bit about my sister and my family, so that you guys can learn a little bit more about who I came from. So, one thing that I like to joke about is how my family was actually 2 minutes late to my birth. That includes my mom. The reason for that is I was actually adopted. So my oldest sister is actually 40. Nope, sorry, not 40. That's my mom. My mom is 40 years older than me. My oldest sister is 20 years older than me. And as such, she was already out of the house and almost pregnant with my first nephew by the time I was born. Each of my siblings is roughly 5 years, give or take a few years, apart from each other, which means that my brother is actually almost exactly 10 years older than me, and basically how my family line goes is you have my oldest sister, who we'll call L, my second oldest sister, who we'll call A, my brother, who we'll call D, my sister, who is just older than me, who we'll call C, and then myself. So, family with 5 kids, I'm the youngest. Now, growing up with my family being so far apart in age, I don't have a lot of memories of my time at home with Elle, especially because she was actually moved out by the time I was born. And I don't have a ton of memories with A because she, I was an infant. She definitely helped raise me, but I was an infant when she was living at home, slash, toddler. So I don't have a lot of those memories anymore because now I'm in my 30s. I have a few more memories of my brother D. He definitely was a special soul into his own. We'll do a whole video on him someday probably. But the one that I have a lot of memories with as a child is my sister C. Now, C did like to tease me. She liked to make fun of me. She liked to pull pranks on me and pick on me. She was my older sister. I mean, it was all in good fun. But, there were some things that she did that I really wish she hadn't. I'm not going to say what my nickname was, but she did unintentionally give me a nickname at school when I was little, and it definitely stuck with me for way longer than it should have. That was pretty frustrating. However, going on to some of my other stories that really involve her. So there was, of course, the time we lived in Arizona when I was younger, and we lived in a small farming town, like a rural town there. And so there was a lot of dirt bike riding, and I was not very proficient at it myself. However, we definitely did have, I had my own dirt bike, I had my own quad, and I distinctly remember this in one way, and C distinctly remembers this in another way. But kind of picture this. There was a big shed, and on this shed slash garage thing, there was a large garage door. But next to that garage door, there was a small human-sized door, like a door, front door to a house. You could barely clear the motorcycles, the dirt bikes, handlebars going through that door. And I distinctly remember C telling me, go park the bike in the garage. Just drive through the doors. But she distinctly remembers telling me, hey, do not drive through that door. So I drove through the door, and I did end up, I almost made it actually, but I did end up just barely clipping my handlebar on the door jamb. And it caused it to jerk to the side, and I actually snapped the throttle off. I had to I had to stall it out by going down and reaching down to push on the brake because it just started revving up and would not stop revving. So I actually stalled it out by hitting the brake at the same time. And I've never seen my dad run as fast as he did when he heard that sound happening. He ran out, and I actually stupidly put my hand on the engine when I was reaching down to try to stall out the bike. So I burned myself. He, helped me get up and everything, called me an idiot, all that fun stuff that dads love to do. Now, going forward in life, when I was 19, my parents had divorced when I was 14, and when I was 19, my mom and I had a large disagreement, and she actually kicked me out of the house. At this time, C had moved out of state to a much snowier place than what I was used to, but she had always told me, you are welcome to come up and live with me if you want to get away from home. C and I have always been very close, despite her picking on me. There's a lot of good stories. I'm telling more of the bad stuff, more of the pick-on stuff, because those are the fun stories to tell. But don't get me wrong. C and I had a great, and still do have a great relationship. She was one of my best friends growing up. So I ended up deciding to take her up on her offer, though. When my mom kicked me out of the house, it was a threat. It wasn't actually her doing it, but I took it very seriously. I went to my room, to my computer. I had some money because I had my own job and everything, and I booked a flight to my sister's house and called my dad and asked him if he would help me ship all my stuff, and he said yes. So I then called C and was like, hey, I'm going to be moving up there on this date. She was like, excuse me, what? And I said, yep. Our mother kicked me out of the house. So I'm moving there. So she said, all right, that's fine. Yeah. Let me, run it by my husband. She was married at the time. It's her ex-husband now. But during this time they were married. So I'm just going to refer to him as her husband, or I'll refer to him as R. So I moved up there, and when I was living there, I had my own little space that was like off the laundry room. It was a very small room. It was like a 6x6 room. That's how I know I'm not actually 6 feet. Is because I barely fit in it. I'm like 5'10" and a half, 5'11". So like my bed fit, I fit, and I could have a small TV there. And that was my living space for about a year. She at the time worked at a dairy plant, and she had a friend that worked there, and she introduced me to him because she thought he and I would get along really well. We did. I ended up moving in with him. His name was N. We'll just call him that. However, during that year that I was living with C, I definitely got a lot more, I guess you could say, corrupted than when I was growing up. You see, when I was growing up, I was a really good kid. I did not really break the rules much. I was very worried about how my parents perceived me, and so I was a good kid. Never snuck out of the house. Nobody ever invited me to parties. I grew up Mormon, so I was always known, even in my friend groups, as the goody two-shoes. Now, by the time I had moved in with C, I had left the Mormon church, so it wasn't that I was trying to uphold those values and stuff anymore. It was what I was used to. So I had very little drank at all. My dad had offered me a small glass of wine once, and I hated it. I think that was it. I think that was the extent of my drinking when I moved in with C. one of the first things, my first memory of moving in with her, I'm pretty sure it happened like within minutes of me moving in, was she was like, "Hey, do you want a beer?" And I was like, "That sounds terrible." And she was like, "Well, no, it's not. Let me show you." So she made up a Dos Equis. No, it was a Corona, and she put a lime on top and did something with some salt. It was actually pretty good. I've never had a Corona that I've liked since, so I don't know what she did with it. I've tried to replicate it. Someday I'll have to ask her, but I don't recall what she did. She had worked at a bar previous. I can't fully remember if she had a second job at a bar while she was working at the dairy plant, or if this was a previous job that she had had. But she'd been a bartender for quite a while, so she knows her way around the liquor bottles and the beer bottles and stuff like that. So I mean that was pretty cool, and she definitely had opened up my eyes to a whole new world of different corruptible materials. In my last story time, I talked about how my sister had been the first one to offer me the devil's lettuce. That was C. She did get me high the first time, and also drunk the first time. So it definitely wasn't that beer. I did not get drunk off of one beer. But I do remember another time, though, that it's one of the few times that I can say my sister was truly proud of me, but also slightly horrified in me. She asked me if I wanted to try a Budweiser. And she knows I'm not a big fan of beer. And so at this point, I'm like, I guess I'll try it. I've never tried a Budweiser. So I ended up tasting it. It was awful. But when I cracked it open, she had told me, if you open that, you have to drink it all. And I was like, ugh, fine. So I took a sip. I hated it. So I chugged the whole thing to get it over with. I did not like it. It was disgusting. Budweiser, 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. Sorry, any Budweiser fans out there. But my sister looked at me in slight horror and with a little more, impressness that I've ever seen her look at me with. And she was like, "Dang, I was kidding. But that was good. That was impressive." Now, one of the other times, this is more of a story about R than me, or than my sister, but it involves my sister. Actually, the next couple of stories I'm going to be telling are. But I worked at a microchip production plant, and then I worked at a Sam's Club while I was living with them. And when I was working at the microchip production plant, I actually got that job through R. I did end up leaving there to go to Sam's Club, but I didn't have a car. So R would generally give me rides to work sometimes. I usually walked, actually, is the honest thing. I usually walked. That back then I was actually in shape. But R would give me rides occasionally because I would have to be there very early in the morning, and he would have to be at work very early in the morning. And needless to say, where we lived, sometimes in the morning it would be negative, X degrees. And that sucks to walk in. So he would generally give me rides in the mornings. I would usually either take the bus or walk home. However, there was one day he actually picked me up from work, and I was like, "That's weird. You don't normally pick me up from work." And he's like, "Oh, well, we're doing a movie night back at our place." At this time, I was living with N. We're doing a movie night back at our place, and we want you to come. And I was like, "Oh, cool. That sounds good." So I get in the car, we go, and he goes to a Redbox to pick out the movie. And he types it in. I'm standing next to him. I'm not paying attention to what movie he's getting. And he types in what movie he wants. He, pays for it. And then he calls C, and he's like, "Hey, I have picked up Our Idiot Brother. Do you want anything else?" And I just looked at him, and I was like, "Excuse me? What do you mean you picked up Our Idiot Brother?" And he's like, "That's the movie." It was literally a movie named Our Idiot Brother. Like, I find that story so funny. Also, great movie, by the way. I really enjoy that movie. I would say probably 8 out of 10 for that movie, Our Idiot Brother. I want to say it stars Paul Rudd. I haven't seen it in years at this point, but it's definitely a good movie. Would recommend. But yeah, that was definitely a funny interaction there. Um, there was also another time when we were going for like snacks or something, and it was me, my sister, and their son. Were the my sister and their son stayed in the car, and as we were getting out, my sister calls out to R and is like, "Hey, pick up this medication." I don't recall what medication it was. She said some very uh, medical termy thing. So that should have been my first indication that she was kidding, but it wasn't. So we're in there. I'm getting my soda, and R is paying for his stuff and my sister's stuff, and is about to leave. And I call out from across the convenience store, "Hey, don't forget that medication!" Like, and I said the actual name back then, and he looks at me with this just look of like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "What?" She said, "Don't forget it." Come to find out, it's a prescription medication that is very highly like regulated. So yeah, I just shouted out across the convenience store about that. However, that wasn't in that particular instance. That was not the only time I put my foot in my mouth. I go up to the clerk, and I am paying for my stuff, and he tells me the total, and I am just enamored with this man's accent. I think it is so cool, but I can't place it. It had sounded somewhere between like British, Australian, somewhere around there, but not quite. I couldn't place it. So I asked him, I was like, "Your accent is just fantastic. Where are you from? Like, what is your accent?" And he tells me, "It's not an accent, it's a speech impediment." That was the last time I ever asked anyone where their accent was from. Oh my gosh, that was so embarrassing. So, the last story that I will tell for today is going to kind of encapsulate her sense of humor and my willingness to do things. So, I have this thing where I'm a big eater and I love to try new things. However, trying new things does not always mean I try edible things. So, and that being said, like, there's got to be something in it for me if it's not an edible thing. Like, somebody gave me a quarter, and I ate some drywall. Don't do that. Drywall is poisonous. Um, However, um, for a quarter, I was willing to put my life in danger because I wanted to know what it tasted like. Um, and needless to say, it didn't taste good. Don't try it. But it is an experience that I can say I've done. I have many of those experiences. My sister never told me I needed to do anything that would hurt me. Well, never told me to do anything that would kill me per se. But one thing that I definitely remember is she offered me all the money in her purse. And again, this was when I first moved in with her, so I thought she was like pretty loaded, because she had her own house. Uh, and She offered me all the money in her purse if I ate this super hot sauce packet. And I was like, bet, I'll do that. So I opened it up and I ate it. Now, I enjoy a little bit of hot sauce. Well, salsa. I enjoy salsa. I do not enjoy hot sauce. I like there to be some chunks. I like it to be just a tad spicy. See, my complexion is that of mayonnaise, and my heat tolerance is also that of mayonnaise. And so I when I even eat mild salsa, it burns real good, and I don't. It's real painful for me. Now that being said, I like hot stuff. I just can't get above anything that's like medium heat, or else I will actually die. This is a story of something that was definitely above medium heat. So I open it, I eat it, and it literally brought me to my knees. It was so painful. Oh, it hurt so bad. But I got everything in her purse. When we opened up her purse, she had, I think, 3 pennies, a nickel, and a dime. But dang it, I got that 3 pennies, a nickel, and a dime. So there was another time when my sister, I was just visiting her out where she was living before I moved out there. And C and R, they met me at the airport. And I am not the best when it comes to my sense of direction. So I ended up coming down, and they actually like hid behind some stairs, and I did not see them. And they followed me around the airport, like trying to give me directions to where they were at, quote unquote, for a good like half hour. Just, we don't see you. Like, where are you? Like, and they told me literally where I was at, and I'm like, I'm right there. Where are you guys? We don't see you. Are you sure you're at the right one? Yeah, I'm sure. And I like kept turning around, and I kept missing them. And oh man, it was so embarrassing. And then another time, I was on the phone with my nephew, Elle's oldest child, and I was on the phone with him, and I'm wandering around the house, and I'm looking frantically for something. And C asked me, she's like, so what are you looking for? And I was like, I can't find my phone. She was like, yeah, I'll help you look for it. And at that point, S is sitting there, and he's laughing. And he's like, you know, oh man, did you check your pockets? Yeah, I checked my pockets. Let me check them again. And I've got my phone held up to my, face with my shoulder. It's not in my pockets. You check your back pockets. I don't ever put my phone in my back pocket. Just check it. All right. And they're like, come on, Darius, you get it together. Like, where's your phone? I don't know. And then I realize, oh, I'm talking with S, who is in Arizona, and I am not in Arizona. I'm on my phone. So, yeah, those are just some of the stories that I had with C. There's so many more. I started texting her about it while I was doing the recording for the audio here, and she was reminding me about more and more of them. So, definitely, if you enjoyed this, let me know if you want a part 2 for, C and my antics. But yeah, so that's kind of the relationship that I've had with my sister. A very playful, pranky type relationship. There's a lot of stories that her and I have together. If you guys want to hear more about, my childhood and stuff, let me know. Also, let me know which of these you preferred. I did go off script a lot here, so it was still a lot more conversational. I think I glanced at my script like twice during this whole thing, so yeah, I just don't like reading from a script. It's just not my favorite thing. I did write the full script, though. That was good on me. So I knew at least what I was talking about, so that's cool. But let me know which one you preferred more. If you preferred me rambling while I was playing a game versus me rambling while I'm able to actually focus on what I'm saying. But if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, until next time, keep on surviving.